Children, after we have come to know regarding the basic concepts that we will be using in different theoretical chapters of the subject, next chapter that we have to learn here is the basic problems of an economy, chapter 3. Now, see, whenever we talk about an economy, we talk about different features of an economy: production, consumption, and all these things. Now, when we are talking about production, consumption, demand, supply, market, bank, money, trade, so many things that an economy generally speaks about. Every economy has some certain basic problems, specific problems that are common. Now, why such problems crop up, or what are the problems? Why such problems crop up and what are the problems? To come into this context, very simply, it's a problem of resource allocation, because in an economy, whenever we are talking about producing something to satisfy wants, because see, an economy is running because of human wants. People desires something to fulfill their wishes. Now, these desires, the wants that they consume, that common people consume, needs to be produced in the economy. Everything doesn't come as a free gift of nature. So they need to be produced. And how they are produced? They are produced with the help of the resources. Therefore, when we talk about resources, now these resources means you talk about land, you talk about labor, you talk about like the natural resources, you talk about capital, they all are limited in nature. The resources, land, labor, capital, natural resources, mineral wealth, forest, everything they are limited. Resources are scarce, they are not abundant. Okay? So, to use the resources in a very specific manner, to the best possible use, is the target, or should be the target, or ought to be the target of the economy. Now, so before we start, we need to know what do we mean by the basic problems. Economic problem is the problem. What do we mean by an economic problem? Economic problem is the problem regarding allocation of limited resources. Allocation, where to put, how to use. Allocation of resources for production of alternate goods and services. We will come more into more details. Alternate uses, because resources can be used alternately. They have alternative uses. A labor or a capital, a particular capital or a particular labor service can be used in production of one particular good, not only used in one particular good, but can be used in production of different goods and services. So, alternative in the production of alternate goods and services. All demand by consumers cannot be satisfied, as now everyone's demand cannot be satisfied, because all goods cannot be produced because of these scarce resources. So, the economic problem is basically allocation of resources. Now, the point comes at that what are the reasons? Why do these problems arise? Why do these problems arise? The problems arise, or the reasons for the problems are: human wants are unlimited. And human wants are not only unlimited, they are cropping up over time. They multiply over time. You take your own, whatever you demand have today, gradually our demand is increasing. So demand is not, want is not only unlimited, but it's cropping up over time, It's growing, it's multiplying. Now, to satisfy those wants, you need things to be produced. For production, resources are needed. Now that resources are limited. So wants are unlimited, resources are limited. Now there is a contradiction. Now there starts, or that's the reason for the economic problem to start. And also you have to think about choosing, the problem of choice. We talk about the problem of choice because resources have alternative uses. As I mentioned, maybe labor, maybe natural resources, maybe capital. They can be put to different types of uses. So when resources can be used for producing different types of goods, you need to choose, the economy need to choose that where to put that resource into use, or what should be the best way, where should be it used so that the use is the best one. Okay. Now, once we know that these are the reasons, we have come to know that these are the reasons for the problems to arise. We need to know one definition, that what we were meaning, the word term. The word of the term, what is that? Is that economizing of resources. Economizing of resources. What is that? The economic resources should be allocated among different uses, different production of different goods. So they should be used, they should be put to different uses in such a way that resources are put to their best possible use. A particular labor is used for producing this, but he may not be an expertise in producing that. Had he been resourced or put somewhere else into use, he would have given a better output or a much more efficient service. So that means the best possible use, the best use of that resource is here in production of this particular item, not this one. So the resources should be used in such a way that it is put into the best possible use. Such allocation of resources is known as economizing of resources. Next we come to the basic problems. We have already learned the reasons why the economy faces the problems, or the problems of the economy, the reasons for such problems. Now, what are the problems that an economy is facing in generally? So, first problem is what to produce and in what quantities. As mentioned, that different people in the society, in the economy, have different demand. Their wants are unlimited. We have talked about the reason. So when wants are unlimited, the economy has to decide. The economy has to decide that which goods to be produced, what to be produced. Since all goods cannot be produced because resources are scarce. So which goods to be produced, and not only which goods, once the goods are decided, in what quantities. Because you cannot produce huge amount of one quantity, another huge amount of another quantity, or any amount you want, any quantity you want. So one commodity and another commodity, or so many commodities to be produced, you cannot produce indefinitely, infinitely. So you have to decide that in what quantities to be produced. Okay, because once again, repeatedly to be taken care of, to be noted that resources are unlimited. Resources are limited. Resources are limited. Wants are unlimited. So these unlimited wants cannot be satisfied by the limited resources in the economy. So certain specific wants are to be satisfied at points of time, different point of time. Now, second is, once you have decided what to produce and in what quantities, how to produce. How to produce means, here comes the choice. You have to choose the technology. Certain products, you take say cotton cloth. Cotton cloth can be produced either by handlooms. Now when it is produced by handlooms, it has to be labor intensive, more of labor and less of capital. Labor intensive. Whereas, if it is capital intensive, if it is produced in power looms, then there is more of capital and less of labor. Then there is more of capital and less of labor. That means we have to choose capital intensive technology. So, which technology to be used? That is the problem of choice. Okay, how to produce? How to produce? And finally, another very important problem for whom to produce. Every good is not demanded by everyone. So there comes the question of distribution of goods and services. Whatever is produced needs to be distributed. Whatever is produced needs to be distributed among different sections of the people, because different sections of people have different types of demand. So the problems, see, these are the problems that the economy is facing. Okay, now some allied problems are there which are of vital importance, which are quite significant. Now once what to be produced is decided, in what quantity is decided, how to produce the technology, whether it is labor intensive, capital intensive, chosen. Distribution, okay, this set of people will get this sort of goods and this set of people will get this sort of goods done. Now in production of those goods, resources are utilized. Now resources should be fully utilized. That means there should be no resources left over, unutilized, unemployed. Question of employment, question of full employment comes into the context. If that is also done, it should be taken care that resources are efficiently utilized. As mentioned earlier, efficient means the right resource in the right place as the best possible use. That's efficient use. Particular resource, maybe capital, maybe the machine, or maybe the person, labor, service which is being input, which is given as input in producing one particular good. He is not giving the output as expected, because the resource may not be efficiently used there. It could have been utilized somewhere else efficiently. So efficient use of resources. Resources should not be wasted. They should not be inefficiently used. Efficient use of resources is also a major problem of the economy. And finally, the economy has to think about the growth. Growth means increase in the productive capacity. Increase in the productive capacity and increase in the amount of resources. Resources replenished and productive capacity increased. How this can be done? We will come to the solutions. We will come to it as what happens or what is the possibility that growth takes place. But these are the problems that the economy is basically facing, the basic or the central problems of an economy.